The mindset of a father and husband saying goodbye to his abandoned homestead in eastern Washington would be a complex mix of grief, guilt, determination, and a faint glimmer of hope. Each emotion would be informed by his experiences, responsibilities, and dreams, both those shattered and those that might still be within reach. The death of a dream. He likely feels the profound sorrow of letting go of the dream that brought him to the land, the hope of building a legacy for his family, carving out a place in the wild, and proving himself as a provider has come to an end. Every tree he felled, every nail he hammered, and every furrow he plowed feels like a wasted effort. He can't help but feel a deep connection to the land he worked so hard to tame, now being left to reclaim itself. As he looks around, each corner of the homestead is tied to a memory. His wife hanging laundry in the wind, his children playing by the creek, the night spent sitting by the fire dreaming of brighter days. These memories weigh heavily on him as he prepares to leave them behind. Seeing his home, possibly with boarded windows, a broken fence, or tools rusting in the yard, might fill him with a sense of decay and failure. He knows the house will stand as a ghost of his efforts, slowly crumbling under the weight of neglect. Failure as a provider. He feels a heavy burden of guilt, believing he has failed in his role as the head of the family. The thought of his wife and children depending on him for survival and a future might amplify his sense of personal failure, even if the circumstances were beyond his control. He might replay decisions in his mind, wondering if he should have planted different crops, tried a new technique, or borrowed less money. The self-doubt would gnaw at him as he questions whether other men in his position might have succeeded where he failed. If he views the land as sacred or feels a connection to it, leaving it behind might feel like a betrayal. Despite his grief, if he understands that the decision to leave is one of survival, the land is no longer viable, and staying would only lead to more suffering for his family. His determination to provide for his loved ones outweighs the pain of staying and trying to make the impossible work. He likely takes stock of what he can bring: tools, heirlooms, or anything of value that can be used or sold. As he secures the wagon or unpacks their belongings, his movements are deliberate and methodical, masking his inner turmoil with the need to stay focused on what comes next. Deep down, he clings to the hope that this is not the end. Perhaps the next place they settle will bring better fortune. A town job, a more fertile valley, or even a relative's farm where they can start over. He may feel resentment towards forces beyond his control: the harshness of the weather, the fluctuations of the market, or the government policies that encouraged him to settle in a place ill-suited for farming. If he faced conflict over water rights, disputes with neighbors, or unfulfilled promises from land agents, his bitterness might be directed at those he perceives as betraying him. At his lowest point, he may turn his anger inward, wondering if he was naive or too prideful in thinking that he could succeed. In moments of frustration, he might curse the land he once admired, feeling betrayed by its refusal to yield the bounty he worked so hard for. As much as he feels the weight of failure, his love for his wife and children is what drives him to move forward. He might focus on their needs, ensuring they are warm, fed, and hopeful, rather than dwelling on his own grief. Despite the pain, he may silently vow to learn from the experience. If he ever gets the chance to farm again, he'll do things differently. Rotate crops, invest in irrigation, or work in a more cooperative community. As he takes one final look at the homestead, he might struggle to speak, the words caught in his throat. Instead, he quietly commits the scene to memory, a bittersweet goodbye to a dream that once burned brightly. He might kneel and touch the earth one last time, murmuring a prayer or a promise to return. Or he might take a handful of soil as a keepsake, a reminder of the land he tried to call home. For his family's sake, he might hide back his tears, but in the privacy of the final moment, he allows himself to grieve, his shoulders sagging under the weight of what he is leaving behind. As the family wagon creaks down the rutted road, the father takes one last glance over his shoulder. The homestead grows smaller in the distance, its silhouette fading into the horizon. Though his heart feels heavy with loss, he knows he cannot let despair take root. The father's mindset in this moment is a complex blend of sorrow for what has been lost, guilt for not succeeding, and resolve to move forward. The land may have beaten him this time, but the spirit of a pioneer and the drive to find a better future keeps him moving.